Hello, it's Randy Duck and welcome back for another video. This time we have two replays for you on the Tier 9 German tech tree heavy, the E75. Both replays, funny enough, are on Duca Pass, but different variants of the map. And this is a tank, it's probably one of my original heavy lines. I think I went up to even E100 line first. And I brought it back fairly recently, you know, I think when they did the reforge on the line. And I must admit, I've forgotten how good this tank is. It's really survived the ages. You know, it's had sort of buffs along the way. Mainly quite a while back before sort of 6.0 it had a mobility buff. And that combined with a few sort of increased armour with the on forged buffs, it's a really decent tank, and it's still very capable heavy tank. I think the reason I like it so much is obviously it's got the 490 Alpha gun, but it's got decent armour, very usable armour. But if you combined it with very reasonable speed for a tank with that sort of armour, you can get to that 40 kilometres an hour, which is the max speed, fairly often, and you can get up to sort of speed pretty quickly as well. And just makes it quite an enjoyable tank to get around the map. And when you get there, you can really sort of get, you know, you can side scrape and get into some good brawls, which we'll see later on in this replay. So you're on Duca Pass here. We managed to slap one into this light tank, which is nice, high roll for 506. As I say, it's got 490 Alpha this gun. We're a little bit conscious of the two fun police in the enemy team. So we're trying our best to use a little bit of cover to make it difficult for the artillery to get shots onto us, just to limit the damage we're going to take from the artillery, while we're trying to take out the sort of the lights where they're doing the usual sort of full send at the start of the game, basically. So we did block a little shell there, and we managed to pick up 1,000 damage already, and we absorbed the damage in our track, which is quite nice. But we can sort of see, look at the back of it, that the majority of the enemy heavy tanks have gone the other way. So we're going to make our way back now. Also, we don't have to worry about defending the base because this is a team destruction map. But we do want to get back to, that's where the damage is. So we want to try and get back to fight the damage best we can. The only problem we do have over here is that I'm not going to be protected by the fun police, and we're just going to have to hope for the best, essentially. Because there's not a great deal we can do to avoid it. So we're going to move into position. As you see, there's quite a lot. You know, we are in a tier 10 lobby. There's quite a lot of tier 10s in front of us, but this thing can hold up against the tier 10s with his armour. Obviously, heat shells can go through the front of your turret, but the gunman is reasonably small on this, so maybe you can bounce it. If it hits the gun, maybe your gun can absorb the heat shell. But generally I found I have been able to block quite a lot of damage from this tank. Talking of a gun, it did get destroyed there, so we've used a repair kit to repair this, and we're going to try and get some shots into some things poking out. That IS-7 comes flying around the corner sides on and gives us a lovely easy shot to pen. We get another shot in here, and now we're getting a little bit surrounded. You know, there's an E6 at the front, and the problem we've got, if we turn our turret to face him, we're going to expose a lot of our turret to the enemy team. So I'm trying to keep my turret facing as much, you know, the majority enemy forces. Unfortunately, we do get slapped by the artillery there. He only splashes us, so it could have been worse. We're trying to sort of work together with this Valor, kind of sort of side scraping off of him. He's hold down, and I'm trying to sort of hide my lower plate and get shots in, and trying to just work our best, because we're in an awkward situation where there's a lot of enemy tanks around this corner. Our friendly artillery does actually shut down the T30, which is nice, because that's a dangerous tank out of the game. We're going to try and focus this. We was going to try and focus at IS-7, but this the Polish tier 9 presents us a shot. Unfortunately, we do bounce because it's APCR and it was an awkward angle. Unfortunately, our Valor now gets shut down, and most of the friendly team is now sort of sat right behind me. We don't really have a proper angle on these guys. And this is awkward, because if I can keep that E6 down, then it's going to allow me to just focus the tanks in front of me. but unfortunately he keeps poking up and trying to get side shots into me, which is making it awkward. There you go, we did just get double tapped there, and now we're on a one shot to a lot of the tanks, which is really put us in an awkward situation. But we're going to do our best to try and hang on for as long as we can. We're trying to use this wreck as cover, seeing if we can take out this I-7. We do just manage to finish him off before he gets a shot into us. And now we're panicking station to this 268 version 5. We thought he was going to kill us. Fortunately for us, he actually bounces, and we're able to then finish him off. That was lucky, but sometimes you need that little bit of luck. And quite often when you've got this fire behind the wreck, if you use that wreck as cover, it's really difficult for the enemy team to aim for your weak spots, because that fire is so distracting. I mean, I'm sure you've all seen it before when you get behind that fire and you can't see what's going on. So it's a pain for you, but also you can use it for your advantage in those sorts of scenarios. This Jag Tiger sensor is a lovely easy kill, and now this game it's turned from a tricky situation to one that looks very clear that we are going to win. I'm just trying to pick up the rest of the damage the most I can on this STI, but obviously I have to be careful because he could potentially one-shot us if he, because I've only got 390 hit points left. I do have Angler, one of the crew perks, like the Armour, a perk on there, so chances are it could potentially save me, because obviously I'd lose that little bit less damage in this scenario. But we're going to poke over and see, I don't want to risk it, because if he does high roll, eventually he's going to kill us still. But there you go, he does actually, he probably rolls average there, but because I had that perk on my crew skill and the heavy tank, it actually stopped me from dying in that scenario. So it does actually, that's why I like it on these sort of brawly tanks, because you just allow that a little extra shot, and that's a perfect example in this scenario where I would have died without that crew perk. I think it's armour angling or something like that. But that's it for the first replay. You can see we picked up 3 kills, 4,500 damage, I think 1,500 assistance, and we blocked quite a bit of damage as well, picking up the ace tanker. So that's it for the first one, but stay with us. The next one's on the same map, but we've got a bit of platoon play, and I'll see you in a bit. Okay, welcome back to the video. This time in the second replay, we're here on Duka Pass again. But we are platooned up with Big Rossi and Swindle, who are both in the Tier 9 British tank destroyer, the Tortoise. So naturally they're going to be a bit slower getting into the battle, but when they do get there, that's going to be one scary DPM between them both. So we're going to all sort of move to the heavy location, because we think it's going to fit our tanks the most, and there is a fair amount of enemy heavy tanks on the enemy team, so there's a good chance we can get into a brawl. There is one fun police, obviously we've got to be wary of, but at least it's only one. When it's only one, you can sort of handle it. It's when you get 2 or 3 in the same game, it's going to be, oh god. But yeah, so I think it's quite a few tier 10s in this lobby. It's quite a tier 10 heavy lobby, but being in a tier 9 heavy tank, that doesn't bother me too much. It just means that there's more hit points in the game, because it is perfectly capable of playing against tier 10s. You're not going to feel like you're going to be, when you're fully upgraded, of course, you're not going to feel like you're going to be that outmatched. But it's going to cause you too much of a concern. So here we are in the location. Obviously we're a little bit ahead of Rossi and Swindle and the Tortoise. They're still getting to the battle. But we're going to see, straight away this I-7 is crossing. It's got pretty good gun depression. I think we've got 8 degrees of gun depression in this tank, and we're able to slap a shot at him crossing and get sort of protected now behind this rock, and just look for shots where we can at the start. Like I say, I could get hit by artillery here, but there's a lot of tanks here, so we pretty much all could get hit. So he's going to hope he doesn't pick us. Hope we're not the unlucky one. But we get a nice shot into that pattern, and he gets quickly finished off by our E5. And it's been a pretty decent start to the game, isn't it? 2 shots, 2 pens, can't complain. But at this point, I'm just I'm letting Swindle and Rossi catch me up a little bit before I push a little bit further on. Now I know I've got that support of my platoon mates behind me, and we're able to move up. And I'm going to go into the sort of usual heavy tank brawl area. As you can see, there's lots of tanks in front of us. Unfortunately, we go for the lower plate of the E5. Not too sure what happened to that shot, but we don't manage to pen that one. And now this is where we get into a situation where it's almost like too many tanks in one corner, and in that sort of scenario you're better off just leaving your team be and do something else. I'm thinking, like, can I get shots? Can I get shots? I'm going to have to expose myself so much to get shots just because there's too many tanks there. So I'm thinking, you know what, I'm going to see if I can create a secondary angle and try and do a bit of flanking, basically, because then the enemy have got to think a little bit more, haven't they? If you're just all fighting in one particular square, it's a lot more comfortable for the enemy team. Likewise, you know, when you've had it to you, if you're having to look two different ways, it's going to be, you're going to have to start thinking a little bit more. If you're only fighting one sort of side, it's not as much of a threat. So I'm going to make a secondary angle, which is going to turn out quite nicely for me. We've seen this Jag Tiger, we get a nice spot into here. Obviously the concern about using this spot, I mean, it is a risk, but the sort of G3 area could potentially get shots into you in the side, so that's something to concern yourself with. But I'm happy enough that there's enough friendly teams sort of engaging them over there to keep them distracted enough, and I just think risk of the reward, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take the gamble. But like I say, it is just something to be scared, just to be wary of, that you may get shot. You see me looking there just to make sure nothing's got shots onto me. This E5 is pushed round, we slap one in, we do pen him that time, put him on the one shot. The Leopard, as you see, I think he just fired a heat shell straight through the top of my turret, can happen, and that's gone straight through. But we're going to look to see, you know, we've only taken one shot. We'll see if we're going to tilt the E5. He backs up just enough so we can't get a shot in this lower plate. So we decide, you know what, we're going to shoot the Leopard. E5 gets taken out. It's going pretty well. We're now going to see if we can bully this E75 and take him out. He misses his shot. We get our one in. I see, I think this is Badger. It's making his way around the corner. So we're going to use this E75 just to try and keep ourselves covered for as long as possible, because that Badger could rip us apart in no time at all. So a very, very, very good DPN. We just managed to get to the side of him. Now, unfortunately, that E75 was, I wanted to try and wedge into that Badger to stop him shooting me. E75 was just stopping me doing that, and now I've got in the situation where I don't want to be, and that's in front of his gun. So I'm going to try and work my way around the side. If we can track him in place, that'd be lovely. But now, fortunately enough, these wrecks are in the way, and he's distracted by our medium tank, enough for me to then finish him off, only losing I think a one shot of damage off of him as well. So it's a pretty good trade up, and we're just shy of 5,000 damage, 303 assistance. Very decent game here, but there is still more hit points in the game, and I would love to try and get there just to make sure we break the 5k mark if we can. And this is where the little bit of increased mobility, especially to the other sort of tier 9 heavy in the line, it comes in quite handy. Just because you're able to, you know, it's not ridiculously quick, but it's a fact, it only goes 40 kilometers an hour, but you get to that 40 kilometers an hour fairly quickly. And yeah, it just feels pretty decent. I think I may have one of the engine power upgrades on the E75. But yeah, I mean, if you want to find out my equipment and what cruise I run on it, just put me a message in the comments, and I will double check and I'll come back to you and tell you exactly what I run. And any questions you can just ask in the comments, and I will get back to you, whether it's straight away or not, but I will definitely get back to you, and I'll do my best to respond to all the comments. So we're just looking to see if we're getting a shot onto that Object 277. We couldn't, and now there's just this Jag E100 which could potentially one-shot us, but at this point we've won. It's 8 versus 2. I am only really concerned about getting another shot. That's all I want to do. So he presents us a shot. We're happy now. We're going to obviously try our best to survive. He's sort of made a mistake and he's driven too close to us, and now we're he's no danger to us anymore, and we should be able to finish him off, which we do. And that was a great little result there. And now I just want to see if we can get this shot at E100. I don't think it's going to happen because I thought the back chat would get him, but he's just said he's reloading. So we should be able to get a finishing kill win. Obviously we can eat one off the E100 if we need to, but we don't need to. We finish him off, taking a little bit of extra damage and putting us up to 5,500 raw damage. So not a bad result. I just wanted to clear some of these old replays in this tank, and yeah, I still really like it. You know, it's old, but it's an enjoyable tank for me anyway. So as always, thank you so much for watching, and happy tanking.
Enemy in sight. Hadouken!